Well, good evening, everyone. Can you see my computer screen?
We just see you.
Okay,
Do we
it's fine.
see your computer screen?
It's fine. No, it's I can do without it. It's fine. But I was looking through our party program, and under the role of the party, there was 5 bullet points on page 67, if any of you have it in front of you. And some of them that really popped out to me regarding the role of our party in electoral politics is how we have to be a party of the working class and of all the exploited and oppressed peoples. And this is done with a revolutionary theory, which starts with Marxism-Leninism, a scientific socialism that not only explains how society works, but how to change the world for the better. And this is done completely independent of the interests and ideology of capitalism. So when I got to thinking of how we put this into practice in terms of our electoral strategy, I've been thinking about it for a few days and talked to some different comrades about it, and even people outside of our party who are, allied with the party and supportive of what we do in terms of our grassroots organizing and our canvassing and our support of candidates during electoral cycles. I got to thinking of that, and then this morning at the Ohio State convention of the Communist Party, we had a reading from Rick Nagin, who was our district organizer, and he read some of my reports on our electoral strategy a few days ago, and he threw this into words, and I thought it was really good. So I thought I'd read part of it. And it says here that in Democratic primaries, our party generally helps the most progressive candidates to guarantee their voices and program are heard, and that they can move the voters to see the right-wing danger. For example, most of us worked for Bernie Sanders in the 2016 primary, but then agreed with his call and our own view that supporting Clinton was the only way to fight back against Trump and the ultra-right. But at all times, we maintained our own independent organization and belief that the Democrats are a party of capitalism and not a vehicle for achieving socialism. In 2018, Democratic candidates espousing socialism, as they understand it, were elected to Congress. But while they are playing an important progressive role in building support for progressive issues, it is highly doubtful that they will be able to take over the Democratic Party. Maybe at some time in the future, a new progressive party will form, but at the present time, we must work with the Democrats and seek to prevent divisions within the party so long as the extremist barbarians are at the gate. We cannot rely on the Democrats to build the mass grassroots movement that is needed to defeat the ultra-right, but we must always keep in mind that we will seek the maximum unity when the primaries end, and there is only one candidate capable of defeating Trump and his allies. So it is important for us to get involved in the primaries now underway so as to network, build ties with the other progressive and socialist-minded people, promote our ideas, including socialism, while combating efforts by those whose actions and policies would undermine participation in the decisive general election. And I also wanted to point out, as a historian, someone who's fascinated with our party history, that we have run candidates before historically on the presidential ticket, and this was done, with keeping in mind that it took thousands of comrades on the ground, collecting signatures to get these different candidates on the ballot in their states. In many states, it was never even permitted because of anti-communist laws, et cetera, et cetera. And we simply don't, at the time, I would say that we don't have, the possibility to do this, to run presidential candidates. But this is something that comes up in club meetings and conferences. Why are we running Democrats? Why do we support the Democrats? Why are we supporting neoliberals? And I wanted to point out that there are actually a few of our fraternal parties that do this also. We have fraternal parties like the Communist Party of South Africa and the Communist Party of Venezuela, who are in coalition with, essentially neoliberal parties who, they are, center-left, social democratic parties that have made great advances for working class people, such as the Democrats here, since the time of FDR, but they aren't, establishing real existing socialism as we know it. And so we can think of different races here, that our party, Gus Hall, Jarvis Tyner, Angela Davis, James Ford, Earl Browder, Charlene Mitchell, we've run presidential candidates, but there's a reason why we don't do that. And it would be because we would hinder, the fight against the extreme right, especially now with Trump in the presidency and the Republicans still in control of the Senate. But we have made some victories in the past year. Tony Pesanovsky's campaign for alderman, which I was able to participate in as a PW freelance journalist, he only fell 52 votes short of winning the alderman seat in St. Louis. And, although that can be seen as a defeat, considering that, Missouri is a former slave state, and, the Ku Klux Klan is still active there, and Tony Pesanovsky was, slammed with red baiting from his liberal Democrat opponents and the St. Louis Police Association there. He still only came 52 votes, within winning, and so that is significant. That should be seen as a significant people's victory. Also, more recently, we have the victory of Wasaya Whitebird in Ashland, Wisconsin. He won even though it was a non-partisan race, he won the presidential seat in the city council of Ashland, and he did this as an open communist, just like Tony Pesanovsky. Both of them never denied their membership in our party, and so we are living a socialist moment that we need to take advantage of in terms of all of our activism, in terms of our education, and our grassroots organizing and our involvement in the labor movement and electoral politics. And there's a way to do this without necessarily running our candidates at all levels as communists. And so I did want to get into that. And so what I propose is that we, at all times, since we don't endorse members of the Democratic Party or any other party other than, members of our own party, I propose that we always support policy over candidates. And so what would that look like? It would mean supporting and advocating that candidates of the Democratic Party, whoever wins the primaries, right, at any level, support the policies that we advocate for, such as the Green New Deal, hashtag hands off Venezuela, women's reproductive rights, fighting imperialism, fighting war, those kind of policies that our party has been advocating now for over 100 years. And so a good example, and people are asking, well, what does this look like? Here's a good example. We support, and I'm just using this person as an example, we support Bernie Sanders because he advocates for universal health care, abortion rights, and free tuition, right? That's why. You're giving them a reason. Now, a bad example, right, of policy over candidates would be, we support Bernie Sanders because he's the most left of any other Democratic candidate, right? You're not putting in scientific socialism into that. That's not a working class approach to putting policy over candidates, right? And again, as I had mentioned, in terms of the Communist Party of South Africa and the Communist Party of Venezuela, and even the Communist Party of Britain, who they don't run their own candidates necessarily, but they, support the Labour Party, and they hold the Labour Party accountable, right, for leading a workers-led Brexit instead of a fascist-led Brexit under the current leadership of the Conservative Party. What does critical support like that look like? How would it look like in the American context? And so here's again another example. This time I'm using Kamala Harris's name, right? So critical support in language, good example. Kamala Harris is a liberal Democrat, but we are pushing her to support the Green New Deal and Medicare for all, right? Bad example of critical support in language would be Kamala Harris is a cop because she's a liberal and a capitalist. And that's an argument that we're seeing all too much by the kind of sectarian left wing on social media, right? And even in their media outlets. Now, what would critical support look like in action, in person, not just, on social media or in our conversations, right? Well, let's say in May 2020, Joe Biden wins the Democratic presidential primary, despite, his, let's say, negative, not so happy looking past in terms of Anita Hill, groping women, et cetera, whatever you want to call it. So let's say he wins in May 2020, the Democratic presidential primary. We know that the only party that can take down the Republicans and Trump is the Democratic Party. If you vote for the Green Party, if we ran our own candidates on all levels, it just simply wouldn't win. It would be ineffective, right? So let's assume that the CPUSA members, we vote for Biden in an effort to vote out Trump and the fascist-oriented GOP. But, critical support again, we hold him accountable and push Biden to pass and or support policy, such as the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, hands off Venezuela, right? No imperialism, and abortion rights for women. And again, this is something that, we can do as communists, the same way that the French Communist Party, this is back in 2018, last year, when Macron won. The French Communist Party voted for Macron. They, supported him over Le Pen, who was the anti-immigrant fascist woman representing the right wing, running for president. But the next day after Macron won, the French communists were in the street, protesting the neoliberal policies of Macron. So that's the kind of strategy that and tactics that we could really apply. And at the same time, we would kind of win the respect of people on the left who they want to join our party, but they're kind of hesitant because of the attacks that our party has suffered regarding our alleged endorsement or, uncritical support of the Democrats. And so I think that we should always put policy before candidates, always advocate for the platforms that we represent as the Communist Party of the United States, but at the same time be realistic and fight for revolution through the struggle for reforms. And that's all I have for my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maicol. If you close your mic, see. Joe, let me see if we can hear you. Please speak. We cannot hear you, Joe. So you need to shut down completely go to webinar and come back on. We do not hear you at all, and you're not muted at my end. Your mic is open, but we cannot hear you. So please disconnect. Follow my instructions, please. Disconnect and come back on. And while you're doing that, we will go to Joelle. You're not disconnecting, Joe. Go on, Joelle.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Oh, boy.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm really happy to be part of this important discussion on the role of the Communist Party. And it's not an abstract question. It goes to the heart of our work and lives. And I'm here speaking from the People's Center in New Haven, where we had a wonderful state convention yesterday. The room was packed with a very diverse group of grassroots club leaders, a few elected officials, and a few guests. And we talked about the status of the class struggle and the struggle for democracy in Connecticut and the status of our party organization in Connecticut. We heard from club leaders. We adopted our program, the Connecticut Economic and Social Bill of Rights, which connects immediate demands to address the extreme inequalities we face with the need for socialism. And we heard from Carol Whittam, representing the national office. As a club leader in New York, she brought the necessity and role of the Communist Party down to earth, focusing on Communist Party clubs as the vehicle where we can be presente, she said, in key neighborhoods and areas. Clubs that can be part of the struggle of everyday living with the people's world and put those struggles into a bigger working class context and vision, where neighbors and friends and co-workers find their home in the Communist Party and the movement for socialism USA. And Carol brought the exciting news that her club in Brooklyn had just formed a new club in Queens, and that helped. And that tonight, this very night in Albany, where there are huge housing demonstrations taking place, the first Communist Party gathering is being held to watch this very webinar. So I want to say welcome, Albany. We're in a high stakes fight for our lives, and nothing could be more important than to upgrade our understanding of the role of the Communist Party. The section of the program on the role of the Communist Party starts with the often used quote from the Communist Manifesto. In the movement of the present, the communists also represent and take care of the future of the movement. That means we have to be out there as part of the diverse working class fight to protect and expand every democratic right. And we have to connect those fights to the need to restructure society for full equality, where the working class is in control. The program defines 5 interconnected aspects necessary for the Communist Party to fulfill its role. The starting point is that the Communist Party must be of the working class and of all the exploited and oppressed. That's who we are. That's where we learn, grow, and develop leaders for our party and the movement. The role of the Communist Party to develop leadership from the working class and foster unity among the working class is fundamental. To carry out our program, the Communist Party must be grounded in and consist of those who, from their experience of exploitation and oppression by capitalism, have the most to gain and are in the best position to resist and chart a new course to the benefit of all. These core forces for social change also have the most progressive voting patterns. African American, Latino, Native, Asian communities, women, youth, and union members who have learned the importance of unity and collective action by fighting the boss. Our organizing has to be based on the aspirations, ideas, and concerns of people on the ground level of neighborhoods and workplaces. Building clubs in such communities and developing leaders from those who join provides the basis for strong organization and provides the ability to contribute to broad coalitions and movements. There are many experiences we can draw upon from our 100-year history. In the Great Depression of the 1930s, Communist Party clubs organized unemployed councils based on wards in neighborhoods that put the furniture back into people's homes when the sheriff and the landlord came to evict. Many of those joined the Communist Party and learned about capitalism and socialism. They organized massive marches on Washington for unemployment compensation and Social Security, which the capitalist class has been trying to destroy ever since, including now. The Communist Party was fulfilling its role, giving leadership to and developing leaders from the working class. Another, in the Scottsboro case, and then decades later in the Angela Davis case, the Communist Party brought the demand for freedom to national attention, not only to the African American community, but to the labor movement and everywhere. Clubs and communities across the country were in position to mobilize. Many new clubs were formed during the fight to free Angela, including the club I belonged to, where several of the youth, at that time one being Craig Gauthier, worked at the Winchester factory in the largely African American New Hall neighborhood here in Haven. And the party was fulfilling its role in those struggles in the fight against racism and white supremacy and for working class unity. Today, everything is on the line, including the future of the planet. The brutality of capitalism and the role of Trumpites within that has raised up an amazing resistance and demands to move forward and interest in socialism. Our strategy to build broad people's unity and solidarity against the extreme right white supremacist forces and to further the demands for equality and vision of socialism brings us back to the basics of sinking roots into specific diverse working class communities for the long haul. An exciting part of our state convention yesterday were the reports from 2 young women club leaders, Chachi Roman in the Manchester Club and Georgina Fuentes in the Broad Street Club in Hartford. They told about taking on landlords. They talked about using the people's world, inviting neighbors to their house on party meeting night. They both started out in a very young formation around the party and then the YCL, and now they're leaders in the Communist Party, bringing their own children along. The decision to build the party in neighborhoods and workplaces where the core forces exist has enabled our party to carry out its role of building working class unity and developing working class leaders for the party and the movement. Here, lessons have been learned from experience about solving the unique problems in their club area. Here has come the opportunity to contribute to education on major struggles occurring in the legislature, the union, or around peace and climate. Much of this organizing and education is done with consistent circulation and distribution of the people's world and in recruitment to the club from its neighborhood. No matter how somebody finds the party, whether it be through the neighborhood, through online, or through a coalition, building the neighborhood club is key to fulfilling the role of the Communist Party. Sometimes it can be in a big way, others in something smaller that is one. And I give one example. In New Haven, the YCL outreach to other youth groups 6 years ago, when 31 young people had been killed by gun violence. The New Elm City Dream was formed around the demand jobs for youth, jobs for all, connecting the need for family income to stopping violence and address racism. The Winchester Newhall Club partnered by organizing in the neighborhood, as did the Unite Here unions. It contributed to the election of a supermajority of Labor Community Coalition on the Board of Alders, and those issues becoming the priorities throughout the city. Our slogan, Jobs for Youth, Jobs for All, has become a main demand of the entire movement. This is but one of many examples that could be given from around the country on the Communist Party carrying out its role to be of the working class and all exploited and oppressed peoples, and to build unity among the working class and within the working class. Carol Whittam yesterday reminded us that at our convention in June, we will be preparing to help organize the fight against Trump, the fight for a Green New Deal to rid our communities of drugs and bring in great jobs, building homes and lives, and that at our convention in June, we will be strengthening our party organization to help us to a socialist USA, which is what we want, what we need, and what we have to have. So I'd like to close out this segment with a 60-second video of Comrade Georgina Fuentes, who I referred to a moment ago, telling why she is so proud to be a club leader in the Communist Party.
Hi, my name is Georgina Fuentes, and I'm in the Broad Street Club. I've been in the party since I can remember, a little girl. My mom started being in the party a long time ago. I like the party because they help the poor. They've always been so supportive with whatever needs to be fixed. We get together, we fight the fight, you know, and my club is in Broad, I'm a Broad Street Club, and I run it actually at my house. Just enjoy the party because it's so positive in life. It's the only reason why I joined, because everything in life is so negative sometimes that every time I get around the comrades, and when I'm down and out because I heard something bad in the news, when I get with the comrades and we try to work it out and do something positive, that's when my life turns out to be so much better and so much a little bit easier. Again, my name is Georgina Fuentes. I'm from the Broad Street Club in Hartford, Connecticut. Thank you.
Okay, Dee, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joelle. Okay, Joe.
Yes, thank you, Denise, and good evening, everyone. This evening, I'm going to concentrate on two aspects of the party. First aspect is its uniqueness, and the second aspect is its role. Both are related to two ideas that have been critiqued in the recent period. The first idea is the party of a new type, and the second is the notion of vanguardism. Those two things are related but not identical. And my concern is that with respect to both, the critique, while in some respects necessary, has resulted in some things getting lost, some things being de-emphasized, and that those things that are lost and de-emphasized are essential things, things that we cannot do without, that doing without would leave us in a bad place, kind of rudderless, and might even change who and what we are. And so with respect to the issue of the party's uniqueness, we should recall that Marx put forward a very basic idea, and that is the idea of the leading role of the working class in the fight for and the building of a new society. And that leading role is often understood as a political thing, and it is. But it is also an ideological thing. It's also an intellectual thing, a moral thing, as well as organizational. You know, that we embody all of those things, and that the class, part of our role is to bring those things forward fully and frontally. And, you know, if you think about it in this regard, the creation of the communist parties, not just in our country, but worldwide, you know, it kind of represented the introduction of a new historical force into political life, one that had never existed before, never ever. You know, there had been parties, of course, in the past that had represented the poor and the dispossessed. You know, in our country during the 19th century, the populist movement was something like that. And there had even been parties that had put forward the leading role of labor parties. But there were none that had fought for the leading role of the class, of working class folks in all aspects of life, on the one hand, but who also put forward a scientific, revolutionary worldview aimed at achieving it, you know? So not only did we have that we're fighting for workers, but that we had a plan, you know, for getting that done, and a way of testing that plan in real life. And that was a big idea, remains a big idea. Earth-shaking, really. You know, the concept of the party of a new type is most often understood in the narrow political sense. And that's kind of why we, you know, critiqued it. And what I mean by narrow political, I mean that it was understood as a party of professional revolutionaries that operated on the basis of democratic centralism in that framework, a concept that idea was a moment in early 20th century Russia. That was the model that Lenin put forward in the fight against the Tsar. Really, because they were fighting against the Tsar. And so they had to have a concept of organization and politics that matched that fight, you know. No rights, no free press. Well, our press ain't all that free, but you know what I mean, that they weren't able to vote. They were fighting autocracy. But it was a moment in Russia, way back when. But there was something else there that, in my view, was more permanent, and that is, it was kind of understated, it was implied, and that is, as I said before, that the notion that workers must lead, and we must lead with the most advanced theory. That the party itself, working class folks, embodied a collective and living worldview, you know, that we possess the theory, but also the practice. and both in the form of our party. And that idea that we're not only the doers, but that we're also the thinkers is new and unique and worth holding on to. So that has to do with our uniqueness, that we're not only the doers, but that we're also the thinkers. And we're carrying both forward in the fight for a new society. The second issue has to do with the party's role. And here, where what began after the Cold War as an effort to re-involve the party in the main centers of the trade union and mass democratic organizations, that was an important thing. I think it unfortunately led to some confusion down the road with regard to our role. You remember that we talked about the Labor Commission, fresh winds in labor. This was when Meany and Lane Kirkland and those guys, that Cold War lock that they had on the labor movement that was kind of based on class collaboration and getting along. Why can't we all get along with the bosses and all that kind of thing? That came to an end, and there was a more, class struggle emphasis in the labor movement, and that as a result, the need for left forms kind of evaporated, not completely, but in large measure, and that we were now able to work openly, operate openly, and not just in labor, but also in the civil rights movement, women's organizations, LGBTQ, and so on. At the same time, another concept emerged, largely out of our experience around a particular struggle that we were working on at that time. It was called the Martinez Jobs Bill, and it put forward the proposals of lowering the unemployment rate, addressing jobs for youth, raising the minimum wage, and so on and so forth. And during that period, there was a critique of that effort, and we came to the conclusion, or at least some of us did, that initiative was no longer necessary, that it was untimely, and that it may even be a little bit sectarian. Now, I don't want to argue here the merits of whether or not this was true. I do want to assert that this particular position, that we should not take initiative, that to take initiative was inherently sectarian, was kind of made into a general principle, applied in almost all circumstances, that all such initiatives was ill-advised, if not sectarian. The concept was put forward that unless an issue was put forward in the broader movement, we should refrain from taking an initiative. So, for example, if there was a police murder and Black Lives Matter or the NAACP or the Urban League or the Black Student Union or the Latino Student Union didn't take it up, we shouldn't initiate it. And that included leaflets, and it included forming coalitions, election campaigns, you name it. And to my mind, such a posture put a severe cramp on party initiative, which is a big part of the party's role. And that has had a very negative impact. A political party such as ours must see its role as initiating, unifying, invigorating, clarifying, deepening the understanding of issues. You know, we have to wage a political fight on all of these kinds of issues. I just, in preparation for this, reread Lenin's "What Is to Be Done," and he even uses the word intervene. You know, we should intervene in all of these conversations and put forward our point of view. And such intervention, in many respects, is largely a question of tactics. And so you got to be on time with time, as we say. We shouldn't get too far out, nor should we fall too far behind. But here's the point, and I'll end with this. If you lose sight of the party's strategic role, that of embodying and fighting for the leading role of the class, then the tactics that you employ mean very little. Because what will happen is that if you always wait for somebody else to take the initiative, if we don't lead, we'll always end up tailing developments. The tail on the dog is not necessarily the best place to be. Better be closer to the nose. Okay, so those are the two or three ideas that I wanted to put forward with respect to A, our uniqueness, and secondly, our role. Done. Thank you, Denise.
All right, thank you, everyone. Now, thank you to all of the panelists. Now we will open the floor for discussion. If you'd like to make a comment or introduce a question, please click your raised hand picture, your raised hand icon, and we will open your mic. So I'm now scrolling, looking for raised hand indicators. If you'd like to make a comment or introduce a question, please click the picture of the hand, click your raised click the icon, the raised hand icon, the raised hand picture, and we will open your mic. So I am seeing no raised hands.
We can't do it. I'm sorry. We're trying to figure it out.
You can tell.
What's the problem, Joelle?
Oh, one of the people who's here at the People Center, I'm sorry, I didn't know you could hear me. One of the people who's at the People Center is raising his physical hand, and we don't.
Okay, he can introduce a question. He can.
Okay. Yusuf, you have to come over here, I think.
Yeah,
We
just,
can hear you.
yeah, just speak from here.
Speak on.
Right here.
No,
You're
speak
fine.
into that.
Oh, okay. I'm a little confused concerning the definition of neoliberal views, because liberal in Europe and liberal in the United States mean two different things. The liberals in the United States are generally, moderate social democrats, and liberals in Europe generally are for unbridled capitalism. Although they might have a progressive social, in terms of like minority rights, they might have a progressive position. But they're generally for a liberal means a business, neoliberal means a business party in Europe. So I'm a little confused about that. And also I have the comment that the French Communist Party got out the vote for Macron only on the second round. In the first round, they supported a working class coalition.
Okay, let's see if there are any other comments or questions. Just, you have to click the picture of the hand, and that lets us know on your control panel, and that lets us know you want to speak. So I'm looking for raised hands, and okay, I see one, and Emil, your mic is open.
Oh, hello. This is Emil. Thank you very much, Maicol, Joelle, and Joe, for an excellent summary of our approaches, best practices, and so forth. I just wanted to mention that I particularly appreciate Joe's bringing up the 1997 Martinez Jobs and Infrastructure Bill. I was involved in my very much working class minority neighborhood in 1997 in circulating petitions for that bill. And it was one of the most positive experiences because no workers of every kind and working class family members practically tore the petitions out of our hands. I mean, they were so fired up by the prospects that that piece of legislation suggested would be attainable, that it produced extremely high interest in at least the working class neighborhood where I was living and doing political work. And then all of a sudden we weren't doing it anymore. And, you know, I thought we lost an opportunity there. And I think the bigger lesson is that we have to be always out with the working class, in interaction with the working class, and testing our ideas and the specific proposals with the working class, recording their responses, modifying proposals and actions based on what the working class people tell us. And then I think we can't go wrong. And again, thank you to all.
Thank you, Emil. Anyone else? Click your raised, click the picture of the hand, click the raised hand icon, and we will know you want to speak. Okay. Gabe, your mic is open.
Hello, actually, this is Tina Nanaroni on Gabe's computer. He's here also. Thank you very much, Joelle, although I missed the beginning of your talk, and Joe. And I'm very excited about the convention and very excited about getting to interact with everyone. I'm particularly want to encourage us to move forward to reestablish a larger org department, to get people who could, more people who could focus at least in each region, hopefully one day in each major area, and help the rest of us volunteers who are not full-time accomplish all the organizing that we want to do in person as well as online. Thank you. That's my comment.
Thank you, Tina. Just a moment. Looking for raised hands. I will not be reading, so if you want to make a comment, please use your raised hand icon. Rosanna, your mic is open. I will not be reading from questions. Go on, Rosanna.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't sure whether my hand was raised or not, but yeah, I wanted to say, you know, that having the experience of interacting with new members throughout the country, I think what I have seen is that one of the things that the party is called to do is to find the different forums that members can engage in. They're based on their where they're located, based on how much time they have, based on the kind of mass work they're involved with. Throughout the country, we have clubs that are forming that are doing different things, and they're being successful in there. For example, in San Diego, they just did a tabling, and of the people that signed up at their next meeting, they had 8 new members show up. In Arizona, they have a club that meets 4 times a month. Every week they meet. One week is to deal with the different business, club business and educational, and the other 3 is all action oriented. In Colorado, at their convention, they had the majority of their participants were under 35, 40, with many joining because they see that the party was not just talking about work, but doing the work. In North Carolina, we have 3 clubs, and they have done tabling. They've had different presentations, and so they're also growing. In Minnesota, comrades meet by phone because of the location, but they meet. In Georgia, comrades are meeting by phone as well, but they're connected, and that's really important for our new members, is to be connected.
Hold on, Rosanna. Joelle, could you close your mic, please? Thank you. Go on, Rosanna.
So I think that, you know, there are different forms that that we need to look at in terms of based on location and time and all of these kinds of things. What I have also noticed is that our online membership, whereas before, you know, people would join and we would reach out to them and there was no, we maybe rarely contacted them or they called back or anything like that. That is changing. We are now even getting people who just had joined the day before and send us an email saying, hey, how can I start a club in my area? And so, you know, we start with, well, let's send you materials, or how do you see? We have a conversation, and based on the conversation, you know, we prepare however they want to begin that process. And we're seeing that more and more. I really want to encourage comrades in the different areas to follow up with these online members. Especially, we've seen an increase of online members who are already active in their unions, they're active in their communities, and or they've been active in DSA and find that DSA isn't quite the organization they were looking for, and so they come to us already in some ways trained as activists, because DSA does a lot of that kind of training, but they come in committed to doing work, to participating in mass work, to participating in the party, and also learning more about Marxism, Leninism. Hawaii is another example. We have 3 comrades there that are passing out materials, and they are also trying to begin a club there. And Vermont, I believe it was Vermont, Nebraska, Nevada. All of these are new groupings that where new members in Kentucky, Alabama, new members that have joined online that are ready to, you know, and are willing and are able to begin the process of starting clubs. And it's a process, and we really want to emphasize that all of these things are a process. The other thing I want to say is that, you know, when we talk about our theory or our analysis, I think we also should include the process. What does that process look like? It's not enough to say we're against racism, but we want to say why we're against racism. You know, how did we come to that conclusion? Maybe that one's too obvious, but others, you know, how do we come to that conclusion, that analysis? Comrades, especially new members, they need and they're looking for how to make an analysis of the situation, and we need to provide that step-by-step experience that some of us have. And lastly, I just want to say that I think that we really want to be and emulate as comrades emulate the kind of society we want to build. You know, I think that's really important. Where less and less people are just trusting words, they only trust by our deeds. And how do we treat them? And how do we behave? What kind of a mass work are we in? How do we behave in mass work? All of these kinds of things. Do we practice what we preach? All of these things are becoming more and more critical in these, and this is what we're being called to do, as opposed to just speaking about things and saying things, but we want to be able to show them in some tangible way, I guess. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Again, please please do not, it's very difficult to navigate this system and try to read your comments at the same time. So please use your raised hand icon to indicate you want to speak. I will not be able to read written comments. Cameron, your mic is open.
Hello, comrades. Thank you for your presentations. Very informative. I was wondering, I wanted to comment a little bit on what Maicol had. Maicol was talking about. He mentioned, critical support, which I think is a really important concept. And Joe was talking about, how the party fights for the leading role of the working class. And one of the things that I feel like, or that I've been thinking about a lot, is how the party can develop a like a collective decision-making process for engaging with the primary elections. And I think that's like a big opportunity politically, like an open window where working and oppressed people's forces have opportunity to take a leading or a stronger, role and influence in the overall fight against the extreme right. And also there have been some occasions in our press where there's and some trends where that sometimes indicate, oh well, it doesn't sort of matter who wins the primary elections or something, because it's all a fight against the extreme right is the main thing. And I agree that's the main thing, but who is leading that struggle is very important and has a big impact on how how far we can go. So I was wondering if any of the panelists could comment on that, how they and in connection with that, how the party can do make very clear our position with regard to, in terms of emphasizing the fight against the extreme right, but then also not fostering illusions at the same time about the Democratic Party as an institution, and not only the different forces behind the extreme right, as well as the broader monopoly forces, how we can fight against them, and how different candidates reflect the interests of different sections of society, especially when we're talking about primary elections. So I don't know if any of the panelists could talk more about that.
Okay, let's take another comment. Beth, your mic is open.
Okay. Hello, comrades. I came off of a district convention yesterday, just as a few others have referred to. And what I saw was a new party in birth, which excites me, frankly. In preparation for this seminar, I scanned again the draft program, but I also Googled Communist Party. I wanted to see what others, and what in particular Google would say about us. Well, I'll tell you, I learned something that I already knew. We're too damn small. And what I learned yesterday, from our district convention is that we are a very attractive and growing organization. So those two things come together. And that's really important to me because our discussions on the elections and all the penetration of the elections this far out from election day is enormous. I don't have to tell you. So we need to be able to build our party in this process. And it is really an ultimate test of whether our ideas about this is right, whether our ideas are flexible enough. And then I'm going to reference what Joe said. I think it has to be based on what we're seeing in reality, what the objective situation is, how we feel about it, and what we think we can do to advance the struggle. The last thing I want to talk about is we're having certain experiences now in this new period. And it seems to me it's better for us to try to, or it's useful for us to try to distill these experiences and add it to our repertoire of why a vanguard party or a leading party or a Marxist-Leninist party is necessary. And it seems to me it enlivens the discussion. It makes it focuses not only on the theoretical aspect of it, but also embellishes the theoretical aspect of it. So that's it for now.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to now, panelists, please get ready to respond, but I'm going to go to someone who's using a novel way to indicate they want to speak rather than use their raised hand, their icon. They're texting me. So what a novel way to indicate that they want to speak. Now, where are they? All right, Roberta, your mic is open. There you are.
I have had my hand raised for about half an hour, so I'm not sure why the signal is not going through, but I apologize for that. Anyway, thanks to the presenters for their presentation. I wanted to first say I really like Joe's take on the party and the new type of the idea that we're the doers and the thinkers. The working class does both. I think I hadn't heard that, and I think it's a great way to think about it. And I was also appreciate Joelle's presentation and some of their concrete experiences, and I'm so glad that Rosanna could add to that some of the experiences we've had around the country. This really is a new day. And I think I just wanted to add a little bit what Rosanna said. She modestly did not mention that a new development in Southern California is we have a Spanish-speaking club and working alliances there with not only the whole labor movement, but also with some very big and important Central American organizations that work with us. The Labor Commission has also had some tremendous developments in the recent, I would say, weeks that represent what Rosanna was saying. We had people who joined, we saw their memberships come in online, called them up and invited them to the Labor Commission meeting. That in the same week, they attended, participated, wrote resolutions, organized things in their area, and are going to participate in the convention, are helping us with other things. And there's more than one person like that. So we are the people that are, I was thinking in the old days, well, the very old days, my father told me when he joined the party, his brother wrote a letter from Boise, Idaho to New York. And I guess when the people there got the letter, they sent somebody out from Seattle, and he drove there and dropped off a mimeograph machine for them. And that was the last they heard of them for 6 months. In my era, we would have looked somebody up in the phone book. But today, the most natural thing in the world is for people to go online and look for Communist Party and to contact us that way. So it's not these aren't odd people. This is the normal way of this generation, and we're getting those activists coming in. I'm saying all this to say, I think we have to support a myriad of ways of people connecting with the party. Yes, the clubs and the ways we're used to, but also to value the participation of people who are in outlying areas where there aren't clubs or they don't have the wherewithal to start a club. A lot of the people who join want to be able to speak to their family and coworkers. They want the words and the narratives to be able to talk about why we're for socialism and what's wrong with capitalism. And that's what's indicated on the applications. We've had other outreach through surveys and so on that indicate the same thing. So I think that we need to also give a lot of attention in terms of party building to strengthening our website. It's so appreciated, but we could do so much more with it if we had more input. Anyway, I hope that we pay attention to all of those areas at the convention, and to recognize that we do have a strong organizational work going on. If we need to strengthen it, that's great, and we need help from the districts helping the national and back and forth, and districts helping each other. I did want to comment a little bit on the idea about how we work in the electoral field that Maicol touched on, and he read us a statement from Rick. So I have a little different take on it. I support the position that's taken in the draft program about how we work in the electoral arena. I don't think to use the words "we work with Democrats," I think kind of loses the nuance of the fact that this vast array of groupings are using the Democratic Party to advance their electoral agendas. And this array includes the labor movement, the people, oppressed people's movements, peace movements, environmental movements. I know in my neighborhood, the local alderman who's extremely progressive, all of these movements use the Democratic Party. So it doesn't make sense to me to say we work with Democrats, but we know they're not going to follow through, because all of these forces that's who I think we are working with. We're not just working with them, we are them. I am the union as much as I am the party, and I am this local neighborhood campaign, and I am the party. We're the same thing. So all of us at this stage of the struggle are using this electoral tool. So I think to say, oh, we're just working with Democrats and put them all in one bag, and really loses the opportunity to interact with all of these mass forces that are using the Democratic Party right now as a tool, and that we want to engage with, not just say we work with, but we are part of. Hope I'm not too confusing there. I think it's hard for us to have these discussions because our electoral system is so different from every other country, including the countries of the people who wrote all of the classic communist texts that are often quoted, because other countries have separate parties that represent separate political trends. They elect their separate people into their parliaments, and then they form coalitions from whoever they elect to their parliaments. But in our country, with the two-party system, we have to form the alliances and coalitions before we have the elections, and go into them, go into the elections with those alliances. And it's a lot, and that's done right now through the Democratic Party. We don't have a party that represents labor or the working class. So I think that this makes a much more complicated situation for us, and we can't cut and paste the words or the phrases, that came from other countries into our situation. We have to, and I think the program, and I urge people to study it, does very well on explaining some of these complications and intricacies. So anyway, I encourage us to adopt that. I'll just read. The Democratic Party has been the main vehicle used by African American and Latino communities to gain representation, as well as the main mechanism used to elect labor, progressive, and even left activists to public office, especially at the local level. There exists an internal struggle within the Democratic Party among centrist forces who collaborate with the right wing, centrist forces opposed to the right wing, and more progressive, even socialist trends, and so on. So it's a very complex situation that I think we need to be involved in, not in a simplistic way. Thank you.
Okay, let's turn to the panelists now for a brief intervention, and then we'll come back to the participants for more comments and questions. So is there any panelists who would like to make a comment, or even better serve the seminar by focusing our discussion by being very helpful in introducing a question? So who among the panelists would like to speak? Maicol, then Joelle, very briefly, please.
Yeah, so just in regards to Roberta's comment, yeah, I totally agree that at this point in the struggle, and especially given the context that, you know, we aren't like other parliamentary democracies, bourgeois democracies, where we have these coalitions and such. And so to say, oh, you know, all Democrats are the same, I don't think we do that, and I don't think that's what the report that was read at our convention was doing either. But you know, it's people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and Rashida Tlaib, you know, these kind of democratic socialists, social democrats, they're the ones that are starting this conversation about socialism and getting people not just to join, you know, DSA, but they're joining our party. You know, they're coming our way, and they're contributing to the socialist moment. But you know, the role of our party isn't just to tail the Democrats, as we're often accused of. At this point in the struggle, it's to eliminate the extreme right, but we can't lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is socialism. And we can do that by working, I don't want to say working with the Democrats, as you commented, but, you know, working within the broader movement. And that's what we're doing. But we can't lose sight of the ultimate goal, which is socialism, because we do have a special role to play as the Communist Party. We're in the broader movement, but we're the vanguard. We are the Marxist-Leninist vanguard in this country, and we have been for 100 years. So we have to own up to that title and take the initiative, as Joe Sims was saying. Thank you.
Joelle?
Well, I have two comments, one on party growth and one on the elections. So since Maicol just addressed the elections, I'll start there. And I should mention, by the way, the Communist Party has a political action commission that meets twice a month and is very deeply engaged in all of these issues. I think that we should approach it a little bit differently. We're trying to build a working class movement in our country. And our assessment right now is to build a broad united front. We have a role to play. We are a part of that broad united front. We have a unique role that we play, but we're within that broad united front. We're within the core forces for social change as well. And so elections should not be viewed as candidates in an election cycle. It's much too narrow. We should be building with our allies and labor and community on a year-round basis, door to door, around immediate local issues, around the issues of war and peace and environment, that immigrant rights that come up. And in that process, we also have the opportunity to expand the electorate and to relate those issues to the importance of voting So when it comes to the presidential campaign or primaries, we have to have a very flexible approach. We want to defeat the Trumpites, okay, Trump and the Republicans. So we know that. There's a whole array, which I personally think is can be very beneficial. There's a whole array of Democrats who are in the election now. Various different politics among them, but many of them supporting basic issues like Medicare for all, Green New Deal, immigrant rights, etc. Some of us are in this union or that union. Maybe we're in a housing organization that has national connections. Maybe we're with the working families. Whatever it is, these different organizations may come down behind different candidates in the primary. So we have to be very flexible. If you're in a particular union and that union is endorsed a certain candidate, well, you could sit it out if it wasn't the one that you like best. But why sit it out? Why not be part of the conversation and the door knocking that's going on? Here in Connecticut, the labor movement is out there door knocking now, not around a candidate. They're door knocking to register their members who they track, and they know which of their members are not registered to vote. They're going into targeted strategic election districts and doing that voter registration right now. So I'm talking about at the local level. In terms of the building that we're doing, we have to be flexible, and that informs our approach of how we develop things at the national level, and how we can make a contribution that is unique in this process. And so that kind of relates with what I wanted to say about the role of the party and the working class as leaders, well, the leading role of the working class and the all oppressed and exploited peoples. So that it's so exciting how the party is growing now all over the country. And I really appreciate that Rosanna was sharing that as part of this particular webinar. And as we grow, now that gives us a new opportunity to think strategically about where are there certain locations, and maybe it's in the South, wherever it may be. Maybe it's where there's a big Amazon warehouse or something. But where are the locations that we're starting to get members, where it would be critical to build the party, where that could have an impact far beyond. So, and then that connects with what neighborhoods and what workplaces that we single out in our state, but also nationally. So we need to take a strategic approach if we're going to be truly a party of the working class and all oppressed and exploited peoples. Thank you.
Joe, did you want to say something, or should we go back to the participants?
No, I'm good. Back to the participants.
Okay. Brandy, your mic is open. You need to open your mic on your end. There you are.
Hi, Dee. Haven't seen you since I went to California.
Hello.
Great job. Also, Rosanna, if you're still listening, my condolences with some recent situations in the family that you couldn't come to our state convention, but we just had our state convention. I like hearing that everyone's excited coming back from theirs or their district stuff. There was a little note I wanted to say hearing about the elections. I do hesitate endorsing the type of Democratic candidate that would perpetuate the disenfranchisement that's happened. The vote here in Arizona has been very messy. So yeah, just the political process itself is at stake to me when we talk about that. But moving forward, a little personal note. I was aware of some, as mentioned earlier, disorganization, just needing to pass the torch to people ready to take over, just maybe even just organization from the top. But I want to know, I've been a member almost 15 years, and I'm getting the impression that I'm possibly not even counted. Do you guys have record of me, or are we just our other comrades? Are we having a hard time counting comrades, or is that just that's what was apparent to me? But is that correct?
What do you mean by counting?
Well, I mean, okay, so they're having a hard time finding our numbers. Just the organizers that were presenting at my in my state of Arizona. And I've had follow-up questions even since personally to different people who were, officers, and they were saying that there was a hard time counting members, that some people, maybe it was just two different record-keeping systems. I'm not sure what it was. A side note was I kind of went for the elections because I've been to 2 or 3 state conventions, must have been 3 because I've been to 3 national conventions, and I know that we always have the elections. This time they said they didn't have time, and they're going to do elections later. And now I notice I'm in Phoenix. Tucson has the great, like Rosanna said, organization that meets 4 times a month. Tomorrow when they meet, they're talking about election of regional officers or regional, yeah. So I just wondered about that too. Like I thought we had open elections.
Okay, Brandy, I'm sure someone
you.
will get back to you, but thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, looking for raised hands. Cindy, opening your mic now. Open your mic on your end, please. There you are. Speak up, please. Cindy, you have to just speak up. Your mic is open on this end and your end. We don't hear you. Sorry. We still don't hear you. Okay, sorry, Cindy, we can't hear you. Anthony, your mic is open.
Yes, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Brandy in Arizona for bringing up the issue of, numbers, how many of us are actually involved in this movement. And through the party called the Communist Party, I've been a member for only 3 years. Brandy's been a member for 15, 5 times my time. And like tonight, could you tell me, or could any of the panelists tell me, what are our numbers that are logged in tonight, please? Is it 50? Is it 500? Is it 50,000? Thank you.
Tonight, it's not easy to tell the exact numbers. We'd have to get the exact numbers from the analytics produced by the system, but there are over 50 people, over almost 300 people are signed up for the series, and many of them turn to the recordings or go to the recordings. But on tonight's seminar, there are over 50 people participating. I don't know what significance that is, but that's the best. The analytics from the system will tell us more exact, provide us with more exact numbers. Thank you. Going to the next person. Vaughn, your mic is open. You have to open your mic on your end. There you are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dean. Greetings to all comrades. Let's talk about numbers. I understand in 1895, the first meeting of a Marxist organization only had 9 people attend. So let's not vest too much significance in numbers. The party grew rapidly after that. It fractionalized, and then it came together when the time was right under the incredible and outstanding leadership of Lenin. I'd like to talk about electoral participation of the party, and that is supporting Democratic candidates. I've heard it said that the Democratic Party at the national level would be considered in Europe to be a conservative party, and the Republican Party in Europe would be considered a far-right nationalist party. That being said, we are correct in our approach to electoral politics, certainly at the local, state, and the county and city level. We've had recent success in seeing socialists elected to city councils, to even state legislatures, and socialists recently elected from the local level to Congress. So I think we have to look at that from a Leninist point of view. What is the purpose of that participation? It's to expose our ideas, to educate, and to bring people around to the Marxist-Leninist point of view. It is not to become merged with them, but it is for them to be exposed to our ideas. And once the time is right, they will gravitate toward Marxist-Leninism when they see the ultimate depravity and bankruptcy of capitalism, how it engenders inequality and exploitation. So when the time is right, planting those seeds now will, I think, result in lush vegetation at a later date. What we're doing is acting on all fronts in which we can possibly bring about change through ultimately a change in government, a replacement of the capitalist government with a socialist government. We'll never be able to capture the state. We don't want that. We want to replace the capitalist state with a worker state. That's my first point. The second one would be that I think in order to be totally effective in our approach to expounding our point of view, strengthening the party, being all-inclusive in our United Front campaigns, whether it's Black Lives Matters, women's rights, equality, improving the condition of workers through higher wages and unionist activities. We need to unite, or at least throw out an invitation to all Marxist-Leninists who are willing to work with us and work under and accept our party's program to join in and unite together as one, including Trotskyites who at one time did not feel welcome, but now may feel welcome. The ISO, as we know, has essentially dissolved at the national level. I've talked to many Trotskyites who are interested in joining the party. This may be the time to at least extend a comradely invitation to come back or to join the party and work together toward our ultimate goal and our ultimate success under one party banner. Thank you.
Okay, we are actually running out of time. So I'd like to turn it back over to the panelists, but let's take one more before we do that. Let's try Cindy again. Cindy, can you open your mic and speak up? Okay, you opened your mic. Now speak up. We still can't hear you, Cindy. I'm sorry. We still can't hear you. All right, let's turn it back to the panelists and hear your closing remarks. So let's start with Maicol very quickly, very briefly.
All right. Yeah, so I just wanted to say that, the role of the party is essential now more than ever, now that we're living this socialist moment and movement also. The excitement around the Bernie Sanders campaign and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, her election, as well as, these other groups that are growing on the left. We have to be that group that people are coming to. It doesn't matter how big we are right now. The point is that we're growing, and people, as Rosanna was saying, they're joining online, they're joining through Twitter, they're joining, through the website, and they want jobs to do. They're asking for us, I want to start a club, I want to distribute literature. We have to take advantage of that. We can't miss the boat, on this socialist moment. And so in terms of our, our electoral strategy, our grassroots organizations, our involvement in the labor movement, we can't forget who we are at the same time. Yes, we're going to work within the broader movement to eliminate the threat of right-wing extremism and, to fight the Trumpites and the Trump administration and imperialism. But we always have to keep in mind that the ultimate goal is a socialist USA, and we can't lose our identity along the way. Thank you.
Okay, Joelle?
Well, just briefly, I'm so happy that we had this discussion. It's an ongoing discussion, and I'm looking forward to the convention. And I think that what we can conclude is that the role of the party is so very important at this point in time when we face such catastrophe, environmental imperialism, the economics, and racism. So people are really hurting, they're angry, and we have to figure out how to provide the strongest possible organizing vehicle, not only for the immediate, but to connect the immediate with socialism. There's a lot of interest in socialism. Others have said that. People who use the word socialism as part of their identity are getting elected. What's very special about the Communist Party is our strategy, our tactics, and the fact that we are of and by the working class and all oppressed and exploited peoples. And by that, what it means is we have to take a strategic approach as we're growing and blossoming, which is fantastic, to make sure that we are in those key communities where we can really build the strength for the inner core of the party moving forward into the next decades. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Joe?
I think it's been a great conversation, and I look forward to continuing it at the convention as we get into the meat of the issue and discuss and debate the program. I think that the big thing is, as we've been saying all evening, is to initiate action and discussion, and to deepen our understanding of things in practice, because the main way that working class folks are going to learn is not so much from the pages of a book, though, pages of a book are really important, or even on a podcast. So podcasts are important, or even on a video, but is in the doing, you know. Um, and I think that we're beginning to do that, and the biggest challenge is, you know, as we've been saying, you know, the doing is in the defeat of Trump, and in the course of it to deepen the experience of working class folk and broadening this broad democratic and socialist moment that we're living through. That's it.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for participating, including the panelists and the participants as well. Those of you who plan to come to Chicago, we look forward to seeing you. Those of you who will not be coming to Chicago, you will have the option of participating in the convention online. So please pay attention to and look for the announcement and provision of the link, which will enable you to participate in the convention online. So thank you to everyone for joining us tonight, and we'll be talking again in the near future. So thank you and good night.